So apologies for yesterday. My network cut me off. I couldn't join back again, even though it's raining today, but we hope today is better. So yeah, yesterday we are supposed to introduce CSS. I talked about it a bit before going off. Supposed to introduce CSS. We talked about the structure of our web pages. Then it's time to see how we can style those structures, fix it up, position things, and align it the way we want it to be, or positioning it the way we want it to be. Okay, that's the work of CSS. Use it to arrange your elements. So we'll get to know what the CSS is all about. Got to explore the ins and outs of it. So yeah, let's quickly get into it. So I believe we have our code editor ready, because mine is coming up now. So this was the last thing we did, the form. So okay, let me uncomment this, then comment everything out. Comment it out. Start from here. Okay. So let's run our live server. Should be having a blank page. Blank page. Yeah, so we have a blank page. So the full meaning of CSS, cascading style sheet, right? That's what it means, the full meaning. And like I explained before, it's used to arrange our elements on our web browser. You add colors, you add positioning, you add the sizes of elements and other properties, right? Now, CSS is made up of a selector. Is made of a selector, a property, and a value, right? What do I mean by that? So let's see how we can add CSS. Okay, first of all, there are different ways to add CSS to your elements. Let's say we have H1 here. Then we have please try and mute your mics, please, so you don't get echoes. So we have 3 ways of using CSS. Right? We have 3 methods of using CSS. The first one is the internal or the inline. First one is the inline. Okay. So let's see how you can add this inline CSS. So if you type style, it should give you this. Your IntelliSense, that's from your code editor, it should be popping up kind of autocomplete for it. So first of all, you type in style with the equals to and the 2 quotation marks, right? So okay, let's use color and we'll say red. Okay. So we are trying to color this heading, make these letters red, right? So we are saying the style, they're trying to style these elements. And what are you trying to style? The color of the text, and what color in particular do you want to color it? And we are choosing red. If you go to your browser, you see that this is coloring red. Okay, it's coloring red. So now, yeah, it's called cascading style sheet, right? So it's a style sheet. So we use the word style to indicate, okay, you want to style these elements, right? You want to style these elements. Now, I mentioned earlier that CSS is, it comprises of selector, properties, and value, right? Now here we are applying this directly to this element. It's called inline, inline CSS or inline styling. It's called inline styling because we are applying it directly to that element. Okay, directly to the element. Let me change this to, okay. So the second one is internal CSS. Internal, as the name suggests, it means it will also be in the same file with the HTML, right? It's in the same file with the HTML. So where you add internal styling, it's in your header tag, right? In your header tag, in your head tag, sorry. In your head tag. You know, the head tag is where the meta tags are residing, right? And we have explained what these meta tags do. Okay. So we add it in the heading. Now, when you when your browser gets to see these documents, right? It reads it from very top to the last element, right? It reads it from this line to this line to this line, right? So now, and when it gets to all these places, it will know that it's dealing with HTML tags, right? So in internal styling, you have to indicate that, okay, inside this HTML file now, we are going to also have a style, styling inside it, right? So how do you make the browser understand that, okay, whatever, that this part of the code that is going to run now contains CSS elements, right? So we use the keyword style. Okay, use the style tag. Then here comes the properties proper I was telling you, like the 3 properties that makes up the CSS. Okay, so we say first of all we have selector. Okay, what do we mean by selector? What do you mean by selector? Selector is the element you're selecting or the element you're targeting to style, right? Why the selector didn't really work is because we are doing it directly inside that selector, right? Which is the H1, right? Now in HTML, we have the H1 tag, right? But in CSS, if you want to style any elements, of course you have to, maybe you want to like give this person a special treatment. Like in this class now we are having, right? If I want to give someone a gift, I will have to like identify the person by their name. I'll be like, okay, the organizers, I want you to give Emmanuel this gift, right? So that's kind of what the CSS is doing here. It's saying, okay, I'm trying to get H2 and color it blue, right? So in CSS, we call this H2, we call this selector, right? And this, we call it the property. This, we call it the color property, right? The color property. And we have so many properties, which you see some of them. Yeah, here, okay? So, and this is the value, the blue. So we have selector, we have property, and we have a value, right? So let's see if we have something in our browser. Okay, so it works, right? It works. So this is internal styling, right? The first time what we did was inline. Remember, inline is the one you do directly to the element. Okay, let's have another element here. So we call it search story. So now this is the first method. This is the first method. I told you we have 3 methods of using CSS. Please, can that person mute? So we call this the inline, the first method. The second method is the internal styling. And the third one is the external style sheet, right? The external style sheet. Now, because it's external, you create a file, a different file for it. Remember, we created a folder, right? Created a folder when we are doing file organization at the very beginning of our class, right? And we created okay. Okay, I hope it's bolder now. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So we created this, I believe we have we have these folders in our own, and some of us might also have this file too. Okay, but I can go ahead and delete mine. Okay, so I create this folder again. Or okay, this is how I created a folder, right? This is the upscale folder I have. So inside this upscale folder, remember I was calling it the parent folder that is housing all these children, right? So when you over here, you see new folder, right? This is for file. So when you click on this, let's say CSS2, it creates a folder for you, right? That's how I created this CSS folder here. So when you click on this folder and right click on it, you see new file, right? So inside that new file, I named it style.css. Remember, you can name it any other thing. It mustn't be style. Some people might use main.css, right? Some people might use main.css. Okay. Then in a situation where you want to have different CSS file for your pages, right? You might name this about.css or contact.css, right? Depending on the case. But some people, they use the style of their whole elements in one file, okay? In one file. So yeah, we have a file, style.css, in our CSS folder, right? And now, this is, we have H3 here, right? We have H3 here. So how do we make this, whatever we do here, to reflect in our HTML, or how do we connect these two? So whatever you're doing here will be reflecting in here, right? Because right now, if you do, because we are in the style sheet file now, because we are in the style sheet file now, right? There's no need using the
Yes, I am prepared. Is it really a wish to become rich and famous?
There's no point using the style tag, right? The style tag. The reason why we use it here is because when the browser gets to this place, you say, oh, this is a style tag. So whatever is inside there, it will treat it as a CSS file, right? Or a CSS element, okay? So, but here, because we are dealing with CSS only, there's no need using that tag. So you just go ahead and get your selector, right? Get your selector. So you say color should be, which color do we use now? Yeah, okay. Let us use gold. Okay. So when we do this and go to our browser, there's nothing happening here, right? There's nothing happening here because it's not communicating with the HTML file, right? So let me comment this out. So the way we link this to up is by using link still inside the head tag. Be mindful of where you're doing all these things, right? We did the internal styling inside the head tag. So when you want to link your external style sheet to your HTML, You also do that in the head tag. You also do that inside the head tag. So we use this link. You can see when you type out link, right? Now, this REL means relationship. Okay, so what's the relationship? It's a style sheet, right? Yeah, the style sheet. Then this href, we've learned it when we are doing the links, right? When we are doing the links. So, okay, if you really know what to do here, can you just go ahead and do it? I believe you guys should know how to do this now. This href is similar to the one we had in our links. Yeah, is that, yeah, in our links here. So go ahead. If you have added your own, let me see. Indicate in the chat box. You link your style sheet and make this H3 to have the color, any choice of any color choice you want. Exactly, Emmanuel, if your CSS is in the same parent folder with the index, then you're correct. But if it is in a folder, like we are doing here, then you're wrong. Yeah, Ojako should be right. Ojako should be right, yeah. Yeah. So like I said, if it is in a folder, you acknowledge the folder first, okay? So if I type C, it will give me everything that's related to C. You can see it's giving me contacts.html. We have contacts here, right? Then you have the CSS folder, right? Which is this one here, right? Which is this one here. So if I click on that folder, then this is the only file inside it. If I still have other files here, it will list it out for me here, right? So this shows that you're getting it right. Okay, it shows that you're getting it right. So I click on this. Okay. So if we go to the browser, yeah, our heading has been targeted, right? So our H2 is no longer functional because we have commented this out. Okay, let's leave it out. Then the three are working, right? The three are working. Okay. So that's the three methods of using CSS. We are using the whole three now in one HTML file. We have used we have used the inline, right? Inside the inline, you indicate that you want to give this elements H1, you want to style it, right? So you use the now, like I explained before, right? We have this thing is called attributes. It's called attributes, right? Because attributes I explained before, it further describes the elements, right? It further describes the elements. So everything that is here, just like in this text area now, let me uncomment. I don't know if it's okay. Let me just copy it. Okay. If I paste it here now, you see inside the opening tag, this is where the opening tag stopped, right? Inside this opening tag now, these are attributes. You can see there are more than one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, right? So yeah, element can have up to that number. Okay. In most cases, it could be smaller, right? So whatever is inside the opening tag, such as these things, they are called attributes. So these attributes could be different things, right? In this instance now, we have the style attributes, right? We have the style attributes here. Inside here, we have other attributes for this text area element. So we also have, different attributes depending on what you want to achieve. Okay. So now one thing I want us to understand, you can use this, you achieve what you want. You can use this, you achieve what you want. You can also use this and achieve what you want. And I also mentioned earlier on that in programming, in programming, or let's say in web development, now there's no one way to achieve something, right? There are different ways you can achieve same thing, just like in this case now, right? But sometimes some methods are of a standard, right? Maybe it has been tested over time and established that, okay, this is the best approach to this, right? That doesn't mean there is no other way. Okay. So, but in this, is advised to use external CSS in all the works you're doing, right? In all the works you're doing. Okay. Now imagine you have about let's say 100 elements here, right? 100 elements. And you have to go inside them and style it, right? You have to go inside them and style it. It will be very untidy and it will also look tiring, right? So when you want to change this H1 now, you have to go look for that particular H1, wherever it is in your HT. Imagine your code is down, you're at the down part of your code, and you have to scroll up just to fix this single element. So you can imagine how bad it can be. Okay. Okay, like I said before, let me just cut it. I know it's for jokes, but that's why I started with file organization. Okay, that's why I started with it. Some people don't really see it as important, but if you understand that you need to name your files accordingly, it will be easier for you to sort out, right? If you name your files and your folders accordingly, so whenever you look at it, you know, okay, this is a folder and these are the things that might be inside it, right? Imagine I added a video inside this images folder, and I go in there and find videos. It will be confusing, right? But because I named it images, I just didn't name it I or M. I might just, maybe after 1 week, I'll be wondering what's really inside this M, right? But naming it images is very certain that the folder will contain images, right? So it's important we name our folders and files accordingly. Coming here now, I'm saying, even though the extension might help you to understand the type of file here, okay? But I named it accordingly. Yeah, style.css. Yeah, that's just about that. So, okay, yes, if you have to add all these properties now, right? This style attributes in all the elements, one after the other, to be a long journey, right? Maybe something you should have been done in about a week, might be taking you extra week or even 4 weeks, right? So yeah, before now they have been using internal CSS. So they have been using inline CSS before they switched to internal CSS. Now internal CSS now is another way to do it, which is better than the inline. But the problem is this now. Like, let's also take, for instance, when you have 1,000 lines of code you want to style, and you come inside this style CSS parts now, and you're adding 1,000 lines of CSS, adding to your already 1,000 lines of HTML, making it 2,000, right? Which is it will also look untidy. It also look untidy, right? And may also cause your this thing to load slowly, your file, right? Because there are so much things and different things inside one file. So it will be kind of slowing it down. That's why we settled for this, because okay, every business will be an external file. You just have to link them, right? So this one will just load on its own very fast because it's containing only HTML elements, right? And the other one is containing only CSS elements. Okay, so it's better that way. Now let's make an experiment now, because we are using these three, right? We are using these three methods inside the same file. Okay. Okay, I want to ask now. You reply me in the chat section. Let's spice it up. So if I use these three methods now in one element, what will happen? Give me answers in the chat section. If I use the three methods in one element, what do you think will happen? Let's assume I color this red and I come here now, external, and also target that H1 and color it blue, right? The same H1 now, I colored it blue. Then also come here, H1, and color it good. Now it's very confused. Imagine you're dragging one person. What do you think will happen? Okay. Okay. I guess we have an idea. Now the thing is, that's what to call precedence, right? Like a hierarchy of okay, that won't be error. Those saying that inline the inline CSS or the inline styling, right? We take precedence. I will be the one to show. Okay, let's just check our browser. So we have red in the inline, and we have blue internal, and external we have gold. So let's see from our browser. And we have red. Okay. Let's see what happened there. So yeah, the inline takes precedence. So we call it precedence. It's kind of a hierarchy, the one that is most important or the one that is stronger. whichever word you want to use to describe it. But the endpoint is which one is more, which one is going to show. It means that inline styling takes precedence or is stronger than both the external and the internal, right? Okay, what about the internal and external? Let me clean this up. So we have the inline blue and the external gold. What will happen inside there? Okay, that's great. So internal takes some precedence over the external. So if you go to your browser, you can see showing blue, which is the styling of the internal. That's great. So yeah, I believe you have an idea of it. So, but yeah, is also a best practice to use the external, right? That's the best practice to use the external. So we don't use the inline or the internal. So sometimes some people might want to override. When I mean override now, yeah, like override a styling, right? They go for the inline so that the inline will override whichever styling I was given this from anywhere, right? From anywhere. Okay, that's great. So just like I said, the CSS comprises of selector, which is the H1, and we have properties, right? And value. Remember, I'm using semicolon or colon here, right? I'm using a colon here, right? Then if you observe here, I'm using an equals to in the internal, right? It's as if I'm assigning these things to this style. So just take note of that. So whatever is inside these curly braces is called the style rules. Like you're giving this selector a rule, right? You're giving it a rule. Okay. So we have other properties. Like I said, we have so many properties. We have so many properties. Just like the HTML tags, there are some properties you might not be using now, so you shouldn't worry about them. Okay. There are ones that are needed now, which you'll be using every day, like oftentimes you'll be using it. You'll be using it. So those ones are the ones you need to just keep using it. Don't need to cram them, like I always advise. So we also have we have we have the padding property. And it also have values, right? It also has values. The values could be from 1, so we use pixel, okay, in giving value to our padding. Now, let me explain. We have, let me just do this here. We have 1, and we also have margin. Okay, we have margin. So you can put any value you want. We'll have 50 pixels, right? Okay. Now margin now. Let's start with padding. For instance, I'm sure all of us have seen houses that are fenced, right? Houses that has fences or fence around them. Okay. Now I believe inside those houses, the building is not really attached to the fence, right? The buildings are not attached to the fence because most of us have spaces for car park or where we spaces where we have spaces in the house. Would either be for car park or any other thing, mostly car parks, right? Some buildings or some houses now, that building, like around the building, you see that there are spaces. It's being spaced from the fence. I don't know if you're getting me. It's being spaced from the building is not attached to the fence, like it could be at the middle, and people have large compounds. It would make more sense if you've seen a large compound where the building is at the middle and the fence is far from the building, right? So now you can see that as padding, right? You're padding the building from the fence. That fence now could be the parent container of that house, right? And the building is the child inside that fence, which is the container. So when you add padding to that house, it will shift away from the fence. When you add more padding, it will shift away from the fence, right? Sometimes you could see neighbors, their wall is like the fence, right? Their wall is together with the fence. Some houses are like that, but they still have car park. They still have spaces from the houses. I don't know if I'm making sense, please. Is that analogy? Are we really familiar with it? I believe you should be familiar with it. Okay, okay. Okay, that's great. So you notice that some houses, some part of the houses could be the living room, or some of the rooms are attached to the fence, while we still have space, right? Maybe the kitchen part or the restroom part, right? They are not attached to the other side of the fence. There are still spaces around the house, right? We also see that because in padding, we have padding left, we have padding right, we have padding bottom, right? That's what I'm trying to explain. When some parts of the house is attached to the fence, you can say maybe you have padding left, padding right, and padding top, but there's no padding bottom. So it's together with the parent element, which is the fence, right? But if you say padding means you're padding it all around. So your house will shift away from the fence and be at the center. This 1 pixel now will be padding top 1 pixel, padding right 1 pixel, padding bottom 1 pixel. So all around, it has 4 sides. It's a square, right? Okay, not really a square, but it has 4 sides. It has up, down. It has top, bottom, left, and right. That's the 4 sizes of every element, right? Every element has top, bottom, left, and right. So when I just put padding without putting the direction, it will apply this value in all the sides, okay? Just like the house I was using to explain it. So inside the house, it will add spaces, equal spaces, right? So the building is at the center, or the whole sides are proportional, right? The space at the front, at the front house and at the backyard, left and right, they will be the same. That's when you have only padding without indicating whether it's left or right. And also in some of our houses, some spaces are bigger. Maybe the space in our front, in the front of the house is bigger, like it's shifted out from the fence more than at the backyard. The backyard might be closer to the fence, right? You can say the padding top is much more than the padding bottom, right? So that's for padding. The margin now, if you're living, maybe your area is close to, your house is close to the gutter, right? Or, yes, your house is close to the gutter, okay? You can see there is also your fence. The fencing should not be across the gutter, or it should not cross the gutter. Your fence should not cross the gutter, right? That's how they planned it. Okay, so now that fence is external. That's the parent element of your of the building, right? Of your house. So whatever is outside the fence is external, right? Is external. Now the road now might be the external, or the environment outside your fence might be the external elements now, or might be another parent element. Okay. Now what I'm trying to say is this now. In margin is when you add space outside your fence. Now they say maybe if you're living close to the road, right? They'll be like, I don't know the exact number now, I'm just trying to guess. They'll be like, okay, give 20 square away from the road. You get away from the road. So your fence doesn't go close to the road. I don't know if you're getting me. Now you're adding space away, like you're adding space away from the road, right? The space now you're adding is that's your fencing now. You're bringing it, you're shifting out from the road. Let me say by 20 meters or by 50 meters, right? So you're shifting away from the road. I don't know if I'm making sense with the margin part now. The padding is when you're doing the spacing inside the fencing, that's with your building now, right? Margin is when you're giving the space outside your fencing. Okay. Margin is when you're giving space outside your fencing. That's what margin does for you. And of course, the same thing with the padding, it has top, bottom, left, and right. Okay, it has top, bottom, left, and right. Right? So let's use our external. Let's comment out the inline. Let's clean it up. Then comment out our internal. Okay. So in our H1, we are leaving the color to be gold. So we add a padding of, let's say, okay, before we do this, let's see how it looks first. Yes, exactly. Padding has to do with inside. Okay, it has to do with inside. I will show us, don't worry. I'm just trying to, I'm using that analogy to make you understand it, but you have to do it here now. Okay. So yeah. So now let's see how it looks like. This is how it looks like here, right? Without any styling. Now I want you to also get something straight. By default, right? Every element has its default stylings. They come with default stylings, right? Each element comes with default stylings. So now you can see we have space here already, right? This element, they are not like close to my screen here. There is space here, right? So that's a default styling it came with. Okay. So most times developers find out that imagine this styling here now. Let's say you add another margin. Let's say you added let me do this number now. Margin 50 pixels. Okay. Let's add it margin left, right? Margin left, 50 pixels. Let's see how it goes. You can see we've added 50 pixels, right, to the left. Now, do you know what is happening here now? We don't know what the default size or the default padding or margin it came with, right? We don't know what the value is. But what we know now is we have added 50 pixels to that existing margin or padding that came with this one, right? So you don't really know actually how many padding that this thing has now. Okay, you don't really know how many padding it has now. Or you know that you added 50 to the existing one because when you see it here, it came with a default styling, right? So the way now to make sure that every styling you're giving your elements, there's a way you make sure every styling comes from you, right? Every padding and margin comes from you. So we have this the asterisk. Now this asterisk now is targeting every element. Remember, we have a selector. So what we are selecting now is H1, right? And yes, then I forgot to mention this, sorry. One advantage of the external style sheet is you can target multiple elements at the same time, right? Remember I told us in inline, you have to do the styling in each element, right? In each element. If I have this H, if I turn this to H1 now, then because I'm targeting H1 now, every element in my index file that is bearing this H1 will be affected. So you can style or target multiple elements in one styling. You don't need to go to each one of them and style it. That's another benefit of external. You can see all of them are having the same styling. Okay, they're having the same styling. So if we use this now, so this asterisk now It's kind of, they call it a global selector, right? It's targeting both the H1, both the div, every HTML tag. That's what we are selecting. It's called a global selector. Okay. So you can see padding to be 0, right? And the margin to be 0. Okay. Let's check our browser. You can see that space is no longer existing. That space we used to have before. Okay. Let's check it again. Let's comment this out and go to our browser. You can see the space is back. The space is back. We are having that space here. So when we go back and uncomment, that space is no longer existing, right? Even the up, there's no default styling again, or default padding and margin. We have removed the default padding and margin. So whatever value, whatever margin and padding we are adding now is exactly what it will be. If it is 50, it's exactly 50. There's no added this thing, right? You can see how this 50 looks like, right? When we are working with the default padding and margin. Now this is exactly 50 pixels from you, right? So we have padding of let's say 40 pixels. Sorry, 40 pixels. You can see the padding now. It's affecting internal. Yeah, this is one way to look at it. Okay, you can see the padding is affecting them internally now. But when we used margin, they were still together. They were still together, but had the spaces because it's coming from external, right? So when you apply the internal styling or the internal spacing, you see the effects here. See them. So I don't know if it is making more sense now that we are using it. Okay. So 40 is way too big. We use 10. We use 10. Anyways, depending on what you're building. Okay, depending on what you are building. Right? So we have margin left, margin right, margin top and bottom, something with padding. Okay. So the color, we've seen it before. Then just like our Word documents, we all type something now, right? We all use a Word document. So we also have fonts. We have the font size, the family, the weight, the style, just like in our Word documents. Font size, is how big your font will be, right? It might make it to be 20 or let's say 50 pixels. Okay. So you can see the font is bigger, but the letters are bigger now. Okay. So they are bigger now. So we have so many properties. We have so many properties. Okay. Sorry. So now, let's say we have, okay, let's change this to S2, back to what we used to have before. Okay. So we have only this one now. We have only this one being affected. Okay. So now if you, let's go to inspect. Yeah. If you right click on an empty space and go to inspect. So we'll be using this console. We call it the developer part of it, right? Because we'll be using this console when we go to JavaScript, okay? But here you can see every HTML tag we used. The HTML, the head, the body, okay, inside the body, all our code is there. Okay, all our code is there. So where is our H1? This is our H1. You can see how it's being highlighted. And with all indication, you can see that the H1 is a block element, right? It's a block element because it's spanning its whole elements. Okay. So let's try something else. Let's try this to work. You can see we shorten the width of this element. Okay. Shorten the width. So we make it 50. And see the width. You can see that blue line and these other ones now. You can see where it is now. Okay. So we've altered the width of this search one. So what I want us to also understand again is, let me remove this global styling, a global selector. Okay. So we have yes, I know. We'll come into that. We'll come into that. So now if you hover over this now, you can see the different colors, right? The different colors. The first color is bigger, the other one is green, the other one is blue. Okay. So because every element comes with a default value, right? Now this comes with every HTML tag, right? So let's get to what we call the box model. the box model, right? Now, what does this box model mean now? It comes with every element, right? The properties of every element. Now, if I hover over this, now you can see that color is highlighting, right? If I come down, you can see this one is dash, dash, dash. Is like the margin is 33,500 top, and left is 10. Okay, better still. Let's do this now. We have padding all around, right? Let's comment this. We have padding all around, so we have let's say the margin. Let's comment it left or right. So you have the border. Let's say 5 pixel solid. Don't worry, I will explain this now. Solid, let's say red. Okay. So we have this. Okay. Now, because every element has a box model, this box model explains the properties every element ought to have, right? They have margin, they have border, they have padding. That makes up the width of an element. What I mean width now, the width, that's the length and also the height of the elements, right? The width and the height of the elements. So if you add all these things together, if you add it all together now, okay, let me take it one after the other so you don't get confused. Now, we added margin of 10 all around, right? So if you go to our browser, you can see the margin. That's the outer layer. Yeah, I've explained the margin now. It's the outer layer, right? So it's 10 left, 10 top, 10 right, and 10 bottom. That's when I explain when you use margin, the word margin, it will give you equal value to all the sides, unless you specify is it right or left or top or bottom, right? Then our border is equal, right? Our border is equal. That's 4.800. Then we also give padding of 10, right? Give padding of 10. So you can see the padding is inside, right? The padding is inside. It's 10 on all sides. Okay. So what happens now is when I add a width of, let's say, 600 pixels, right? This is the length of this thing now. Is the width. Now, what that 600 is doing now, it will calculate this 10 10, 10, all round. That the margin now is 40, right? The margin is 40, the padding is 40, and the border, that's 80, then plus the border now, right? When you do 600 pixel as width, they will minus these box model values from that 600 to give you the width. I don't know if that makes sense, to give you the width, right? So it's part of the width and the height, okay? So it's part of it. So the box model, this is what we call box model. It's just about the element, that particular element. If you go to S2, you can see none of them. They're all 0, 0, 0, 0, right? Even you dash. The same thing with the S3, right? But if you go to the H1, you will see the properties here. So the box model shows you the box model shows you the properties from the elements. This margin, border, padding, it was all added in our CSS. Okay. It was added in our CSS. So we have this padding here, which is 10. I told us that using only padding, when you use only padding, it will add 10 pixels all around. That's the right, left, top and bottom, right? Okay. Same thing with the margin. Okay. So if you go to the browser, you can see those values added right round. Okay. So this will help you in setting the width and height of your elements. Okay. So all these things now, remember these things are like when you add all of them together, it will make up the width and height of your property. This margin, this padding, right? It will make up for the width and height of your property. Okay. So if I do this thing now, okay, let me come again. If I add only padding and then let's say added 50 here. Okay. So now I've added width of 50 pixels, then padding of 10 pixels, then border of we have 5 pixels solid red. I will explain this solid. Of course, the red is the color of the border. Okay. Now, inserting the width now, the width will not be only 50 pixels of this search one now. The width will not be, I'm just using it for example, don't mind how short it is. Or let's still use that 600. 600. Okay. Okay, in order not to confuse us, let me make it very basic. So the width, we are giving it 50, giving it a padding of 10 pixels, right? And here we gave it 5 pixels, right? Now the total width here is not 50 pixels. Okay. The total width here now will be 50 plus padding of left and right. Okay. Just calm down and pay attention. Just listen. Okay. Then I'm calculating the total width now. Okay. I told us that the border yeah, even though I initially misquoted, right? The box model, it contributes to the total width and height for elements. Okay, contribute to the total width and height of our elements. So now we have width of 50 pixels. Okay, for the width, it will add 10 pixels for left and right. Okay, 10 pixels for left and right. That makes it 20, right? 20 pixels. Then our width is 70 now, right? Our width is 70 now. Then when it comes to this border now, it will add 5 pixels left and right, which makes it 10. So the total width now, if you calculate it, total width is 80 pixels. Right? Then if I add the same thing with the height. The same thing with the height. Okay? Same thing with the height. It will add this 10. Okay. Now, remember this box model now. It has margin, it has border, it has padding, right? Now we only have padding inside, okay? Let's add the margin to make this box model make sense. First of all, box model, the box model is just about an element, right? Is a way you calculate the total width and height of an element. This is the box we are talking about. So we are trying to understand what this box means, what it is used for. Okay. So let's add our margin. Let's say margin 10 pixels. Okay. So our box model is complete now, right? We have margin all around, right? 10 pixels because we just use the word margin. And we have border, right? We also have padding. Okay, padding is 10 pixels, right? Then because we have these things now, don't get me wrong, because we have all these things right round in all the squares, right? In all the parts, we have top, we have bottom, we have right, we have left. Remember I told us, you can just indicate if it is left. If it is left you want to do, right? If it is left you want to do, you indicate. If it is right you want to do, you indicate. If it is top you want to do, same thing. If it is bottom, the same thing. The same thing goes with padding, right? Same thing goes with the padding. But if you want to add this value in all the sides, right? Without having to, because the idea is this, it's just a shortcut, right? The idea is this, if you want to maybe add it independently, you do like margin left, margin right, okay? So this shortcut is for when you want to add the same value in all the sides, okay? But if you want to add different values, maybe you want to add 5, you want to add 5 pixels at the margin top, then add maybe 10 pixels at the margin bottom, then you should do it differently. Okay, you can do the margin top 5, the margin bottom 10. Okay, but you use this shortcut like this when you want to add equal value to all the sides. Okay, sorry. So now, if you want to calculate the width of this H1, that's where the box model comes in. If you want to calculate the width, okay. Now we have given it a width of 50 pixels here, right? A width of 50 pixels there, here, right? But this is not the total width of this H1 because we've added padding, we've added margin, and we've added border, right? Now, if you want to calculate the total width here, you use the box model, right? Now, already we have 50. Then width does with kind of the horizontal aspect of it, aspect of this H1 now. What I mean horizontal is like the straight line, right? Vertical is like this now, right? So the width deals with horizontal, okay? Okay. Then we have 50 as the value here for the width. If you want to calculate the total value for the width, you add 10, this 10 here now for the margin, for the left and right, right? The margin left and right. That is 20, 10 plus 10, right? Then you also add the padding, left and right, that is 20, right? which is making the margin and the border left and right 40, right? If you add it to this, it becomes 90. It becomes 90, right? Then the border again, because you're adding 5 pixels, is added on every side of the border. You can see it here, even though they're giving us 4.8. Okay, so you get the calculation of 5 pixel left, 5 pixel right. That is 10. That is 10. Then our total width, the total width now will be this, the margin left and right, which is 10, 10, 20, padding left and right, which is also 20, that is 40. Then plus our padding left and right, 5, 5, that is 10, that is 50. So the total width now should be 100. That's the total width of this search one. That's what the box model is helping us do, right? That's what it is helping us to achieve. So you can calculate the total width of an element accurately. Exactly. The same thing for the height. Then height now, instead of using left and right, use top and bottom, right? Just the opposite of using left and right, use top and bottom. So that's how it works. Okay. Then for our border, we have different styles of border. We have the dashed style. Sorry, let me make this 500 so we see the border very well. So you make it dashed. Okay. So we have dashed, we have the dotted style. Okay. So we have different border style. This is border style. This is border size. This is border color. This border we use here is a shortcut. Okay. We have border color, border top, border left, border bottom. Okay. So it's a shortcut. Then again, we can have this now, this margin. Remember, this 10 is in all the sides, right? When there is one value here, if you're using a shortcut, be it padding, be it margin, be it border, when there is one value here, what it automatically means is that you're adding 10 pixels to all the sides. Okay, you're adding 10 pixels to all the sides. If you have two values, now this is top and bottom. The first one, the first value represents top and bottom. Then this one represents left and right. Let's check the border radius and see. So here we go. Okay. In the padding, top and bottom is 10, right? This top and bottom is 10, which is the first value, top and bottom. Then left and right will be 5 pixels. That is right, left. That is for two values. Remember, we are still using the shortcut. Okay. So this sorry, this we are still using the padding shortcuts, okay? But we are using two values now, okay? So let's see what happens if you use three values. You can see the top is 10, the left and right is 5, 5, then the bottom is 6. So this is top, this is left and right, this is bottom, right? This is top, this is left and right, this is bottom. It's going kind of clockwise, okay? It's going clockwise. So it will meet the top first, then meet the right, okay? Meet the right, then meet the bottom. This one will represent left and right now. This one is bottom, okay? You can also use 4 values. 4 values. This is top. Because it's 4 now, they are all complete, right? It's all complete now. Because it's 4. Then we have, this is top, this is right, okay? This is bottom, then this is left. So like I said, it's going clockwise. So let's see what we have. So you have top 10, we have 5 to be right, okay? We have 5 to be right, then 6 to be bottom, then 7 will be left. So 6 is bottom, 7 is left. So that's for the shortcut. If you don't want to use like star right, if you're writing this individually now, you have 4 extra codes. I don't know if you're getting me. You have 4 extra codes, okay? 4 extra codes. So the shortcut helps you reduce code. Reduce your number of code, the number of lines of code you write. That's what your shortcut does for you, okay? So yeah. I know we just introduced the CSS. I don't want to go much deeper inside it, okay? So let's just try to take it bit by bit. Let's take it bit by bit. Okay. So yeah, we've got to learn about the box model, the usefulness and what it shows us. Okay, you can see how our values are showing here. It will help you calculate the total width. Don't forget, if you put margin here at 0, it will not calculate the margin. Okay, it will not calculate the margin if you put it 0. The same thing with the padding. If you put it 0 and put the margin to be 50, it will use the values from the margin to give you the total width of the element. Okay. Yeah, I know the one that is that seems to be more complex is the box model, right? The box model. So, but yeah, it's not that much a big deal. Okay, I believe when you go through this today, okay, and go through it the next time, then it definitely makes sense. Of course, I explained margin and padding earlier on now, so it's not foreign to you. The only thing it does for you is to help you calculate the total width and height of an element, right? It will show you the properties of when I mean property now, we've entered CSS now, right? We are no longer talking about tags now, right? Like I said, CSS does with properties and values, okay? So the box model outlines the properties of a selector now in CSS. Also, the H1 is a tag, right? But it's a selector here. So what properties is it outlining? It is the margin, the border, the padding, right? That's the three properties. It's outlining it so you get the total size of an element. That is the width and height, the actual number. It might give it a width of 500 pixels and think, okay, the width is 500 pixels. But in actual sense, the correct calculation is what the box model helps you get, right? You add up the margin and the padding. For width now, you add up the left and right, then border the left and right, the padding the left and right. You add it up to the width here to get the total width. Okay, then in height, you add the top and bottom of the margin and the padding and the border. You add the values of the top and bottom to get the total height. Okay, so yeah. So I guess that was a long one. I believe we got to learn new things today. We got to meet the CSS we've been talking about. Okay. In our next classes, we'll talk more on it, see more of the properties and how to use CSS. Okay. Yeah, come on. It's not really that tough. If it seems new, it's okay, it's natural, okay? It's not your fault. Like it's natural. Okay. But you get to enjoy it, believe me. Take my word for it. Once you start getting to know it better and use it, it's just like when you're learning how to ride a bike, right? Of course, you not really be steady on it. Okay, that doesn't make it not to be fun, right? Because that you're getting to know how to ride it. So you're getting to know how to use CSS. You're meeting this for the first time, yeah, for some of you. So don't be sad that you're not really grasping the whole thing. Believe me, in our second class, it will be making more sense. So I don't know if you have time for questions. I don't know. Edozi, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. So the thing is that I don't know if we have enough time for questions. It's around 5 minutes to 10.
Yeah.
I see people already raising up their hand. Okay, we'll only take these two people. Any other question anyone wants to ask, the person will have to go through me on Discord. So we'll go with Olajide Olatunde.
Is it there?
Olatunde, you can ask your question. I've tried to unmute you.
Okay, all right, thank you. My question, I actually really dropped it in the chat, but I guess you didn't see it. My question is that if you specify margin on an element, can you still specify margin left or margin right in a bid to position that particular element further? Thank you.
Yes, it will still add margin to the existing margin. If you add margin now, let's say 50 pixels, sorry, 50 pixels, okay? Then add margin left again. It will work. It will add the margin left to the existing 50 pixels if added all around to add more 50 to the left. To add more 50 to the left. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Done. Thank you.
Okay.
The next person is, I don't know why your name is business meeting. Are you doing business here?
Sorry about that. I don't know what's wrong with my phone. After changing the name, it will still appear as business meeting. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is this: how do I use CSS to style the border and other things, changing the color? Because I didn't catch up with the initial explanation on how to use the CSS. Assuming I'm working with HTML language under VS Code. So how do I now set CSS to use it and style and create borders and tables? Then secondly is the footer of the page. How do I also set the footer?
Okay. Edozie, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say you did not handle that today, that it will come in subsequent classes.
Okay.
And that is just the thing. So he didn't handle that particular. I don't know if you understand what I said. So he didn't handle the particular thing you're asking for today.
But we'll get to that part. Yes.
And we'll get to that part later. Business meeting, did you understand? I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you.
I said that he did not handle specifically what you're asking today. Get, but in our next class, the next person that will take you to handle that part. So you should not be worried.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Thank you. Let's answer Isaiah's question. Then we'll be done with the meeting. Isaiah, you can unmute.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to ask my question based on the internal CSS. Now, if you are to develop what we developed in this H1 now, color, width, and the rest of them like that, does it mean this is the same way we are going to arrange them under our header elements in the HTML file?
That's the more reason it is advised to use external styles sheets, right? So imagine you're using the internal way now. You add all these things inside one element, and it will look very, very scattered. Okay, it will look very scattered. So, yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right, thank you so much. I don't think we can take any other question. If there's anyone that has to ask any other question, please, you can reach me on WhatsApp. I say WhatsApp. Don't message me on WhatsApp. Please, if you have my number, please don't. I've never replied everybody on WhatsApp. Please message me on Discord or you could ask, or in a cleaner way to do it, you could put it on the Discord channel for web development, and you just write question like Q, capital Q to symbolize question. Then I would copy it and share to Moshe. Then Moshe will handle it, and you understand. Or I will add Moshe to the web development channel so he gets to answer our questions. So thank you everybody for attending today's class. Sorry about yesterday, that yesterday class didn't turn out how we wanted. But thank you for today. Today's class was very, very, very better than yesterday. And to the glory of God, network did not disturb us. But most importantly, my apologies to the Arsenal fans. Things did not turn out for you guys as you were praying. Things did not turn out for you guys. But luckily for you, you were able to score one goal. And Chelsea too, yes. Chelsea considered 2 goals. Chelsea, please pray for Chelsea fans. They've been going through a lot recently. All right, now see you guys on Friday and Saturday during our next class. Thank you for attending class today. Bye-bye.
Thank God we kept the time today. Thank God.